Hi, I'm Direct Sun, and this is Puzzle Dungeon Workshop, I think. We're here with Alex Zuricki, Dwiz, prolific blogger, Night at the Opera, game designer, author, Dwiz. How you doing?
I'm all right. I don't know. I feel like I've been puffed up a little bit beyond what is appropriate entirely. I know I'm a guest, but I don't know about all of those.
I think you are all those things I described, right? You have the prominent blog, Night at the Opera. I think a lot of people know you from that, but you are also an author and a game designer, a published author and game
Sure,
designer.
I dabble. Yeah, why not? All right, you won me over. I'm beginning to
H-
like this guy already.
How would you describe yourself?
I talk about role-playing games. And I have a healthy appreciation for the fine art of puzzle dungeons. So really that's why
Right
anybody
on.
came here to listen to me today, I think.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why I like you so much too.
Thanks. The feeling's mutual.
Speaking about gaming, what are you playing these days?
A lot. Oh my gosh, I play a lot. Geez, I have a weekly like main group, and almost everybody in our group is a game master, at least occasionally. The game we still play the most is Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition, but we play a lot of things. We have a Paranoia game on the horizon. I've been running Worldwide Wrestling for them a lot lately, and then you and I get together sometimes, and we play some kind of hodgepodge of miscellaneous old school sorts of games.
It's true.
And
Kind of a grab bag.
uh, in a couple days, I'm going to be starting up another game of the 7-part Pact, the upcoming in development game by Jay Dragon and Possum Creek Games, which is I'm really excited about. So, just all kinds of things.
I don't know anything about that, but I do see a bunch of people playing it on the Prismatic Wasteland Discord, and I'm getting a little FOMO.
Oh yeah, you have no idea what you're missing out on either. I would hijack this entire interview just to talk about Jay's Wizard game.
Do you want to talk about it for a minute?
No, no, we have an agenda. We have a strict timetable to keep here.
I know nothing about it. Okay. Is it going to take 7 parts to explain?
More than that, held myself back when I was blogging about it to only 5 parts, and even then, I left my job undone.
Hmm. Well, do you want to share any fun moments that you've had recently from gaming? Could be from that game, could be from any game.
No,
No, no fun that has been had. I had fun playing Tricks and Treats with you. You ran for Halloween. I think you went on a marathon running
that's
your
right.
game
That's right.
for everybody.
Yeah, we're recording this in what, late like November, and as you know, obviously all around the world every year in October, every game master in the world says to their group simultaneously, hey, I was thinking of getting together, throwing maybe a little Halloweeny, spooky sort of adventure together. What do you guys think? And I've decided to capitalize on that uh, in extensive fashion. I have a Halloween game project I've been working on for a few years now, and this year I ran 11 or 12 sessions of Halloween games in about a month, which took a lot out of me, I got to tell you. You were there
Did
for a couple of them.
I was. Did it stretch your love of the holiday or did it strengthen it?
No, that's the point of the year where I am at the height of my power for sure.
um, so I know you've been working on Tricks or Treats for a while, and I know that we could get into that. It's a whole other topic. It would take a while. So let me just ask you this: of the stuff that you have been playing, what do you want to play more of? What has really caught your eye, and you're like, would love to get in a game for that.
I'm trying to think. I mean, like I said, I already play a lot, and I would say I'm getting my fill on what I've already been playing so far. There's one thing I've played in the last couple years that I just wish I could get more of. I got a brief taste of Yazeba's Bed and Breakfast
Hmm.
once when Jay went on her book tour for it. and I got a chance to play a couple games with her in person. And man, I wish I could just sit down with a group and play through that entire book. But it's not easy to come by. So
I think it's not easy to come by a game for it.
the actual book itself,
Oh,
I was a little outside my price range at the time as well, but
yeah. I think watched a bit of Tony's Plus One EXP deep dive on it, and he really said that it was a unique experience. Also,
yeah, absolutely. I would agree with that.
uh, so let me ask you, as a game designer, what do you want to be seeing more of out there? What do you say? I know
Less,
everyone knows that I want more puzzle dungeons in the world. What do you
right.
want more of?
Yeah, definitely less games, less systems, more adventures.
Right on.
In general, I think we would do well with a little bit more adventures. That said, there is one genre that I have yet to see anyone like seriously tackle, which seems like a massive oversight in our hobby and just a huge gap waiting to be filled. I really want to see an RPG that simulates musicals in some fashion. I can't believe it hasn't been done yet. I feel like it would be a fascinating design challenge, but just really compelling. Someone out there, there's a Nobel waiting for you if you can crack that one.
Right on. Yeah, because it was a director in high school. I was in a bunch of plays in high school, and I remember them saying, um, it's not just a play with music. This person or these people are so overwhelmed with emotion that they must burst out into song. It'd be interesting to see a mechanic where that was kind of the main feature.
And that could be the solution, or if you could contrive some other combination of factors that inspires your players to genuinely burst
Mhm.
out into song, I'd be amazed.
You really into musicals? What's your favorite one?
Oh, not in particular. I was just thinking about it. I really like
Gotcha.
Jesus Christ Superstar.
I haven't seen that one. Um, I also haven't seen Wicked, but I did see the first movie and I enjoyed it. But Wicked the musical has been on my list for a while. I really like Little Shop of Horrors. I've loved the movie and the musical since I was younger. Uh, they're
I
good.
am a huge fan of that one, and I'll actually say it is a pretty major inspiration for Tricks and Treats, my Halloween game.
Mm-hmm.
And the closest I've gotten on that front is just making a game that kind of feels like it has the emotional tone of a musical, just without the music numbers.
Yeah, I love the tone that you have for Tricks and Treats. I know that you had a TNT inspiration list, and I know that your tone is like it's not really like super gory. It's not like people are it's not like people are gonna die in the film, but in the game. But you draw a lot
See,
from
there you go.
films, so that's probably why I have the association in my head. So it's a good tone. What are you working on now?
Well, I have this unfinished puzzle dungeon staring at me, so we'll see if I complete that. I
You
am
can do
also
it,
working
Dwiz.
on. Yeah, yeah, we'll see. I am also working on, of course, the be all end all ultimate old school fantasy heartbreaker system, my magnum opus that will surely overthrow the Tyrant King Dungeons and Dragons once and for all. Um, Maybe that'll be ready to play one day. I have a billion other projects I juggle. The one I can actually talk about in at some length is a wuxia game called
Mm-hmm.
Rivers and Lakes, which I'm working on with my brother. And so that's where I'm going to be turning my attention to pretty soon here as I pinball back and forth between the many different projects I have on my plate.
Sure. Can you give us the pitch for Rivers and Lakes?
Yeah, so Rivers and Lakes is a wuxia, I mentioned, like Chinese martial arts fantasy tactical combat game. It's a project my brother began in 2020, and I've been helping him bring it to life. Earlier this year, we finally released a beta version that you can play. And unlike a lot of what I write about, it's not old school at all. It's not OSR. It exists a lot more in the lineage of like D&D Fourth Edition, Lancer, Gubat Banwa, Icon, games like that. So combat is sport, lots of crunch, detailed character creation, moving around miniatures on a grid, that kind of stuff. But the things that has going for it over its peers is, I think, like this really compelling element to combat that feels like you're solving a puzzle every single fight, and also just way faster combats. I've talked to Lancer players who say they're averaging like 3+ hours per fight. I once heard someone defend Pathfinder Second Edition to me by claiming that a boss fight only took his group 2 full sessions. And at least with Rivers and Lakes and all my playtesting so far, every fight has taken between 30 minutes and an hour, which for this genre of game is really remarkably quick. Plus, Chinese fantasy is cool, and there need to be more wuxia games, I think.
Right on. Uh, any really fun moments that you've had playtesting that?
Yes, absolutely. Um, it's funny, I'm not normally a character creation kind of guy. It's not a thing that I enjoy about RPGs, but like a lot of my players who playtest it really enjoy that aspect and kind of experimenting with different wacky builds. It's not the kind of thing that I've seen a lot of players try to like min-max munchkin their way into the perfect thing, but it invites a lot of like weird ideas. I had a player who designed their character around dual wielding shields as their weapons, and they would throw them around the battlefield like Captain America,
Yeah,
and it was unbelievably effective.
that's pretty cool. Just bouncing it around. What are your hopes and dreams for Rivers and Lakes? I know it's in beta right now. What do you stay awake thinking about it?
That it would be finished sometime by the end of the decade, and that maybe some people out there in the world would play it, and that I would get some nice artwork finally finished for it because I'm extremely self-conscious of the current absence of artwork in it.
That's right. Oh man, I completely forgot that you are a talented artist too in my introduction. You are, and you
Thanks.
are up for are your commissions open right now? Or not? You're still working on your
Yeah,
own stuff.
I will tentatively agree that if anybody watching this says, you know what I've been looking for, someone who works cheap.
So where are we able to get Rivers and Lakes? How do we play?
Well, there's a Night at the Opera itch.io page, and of course, there's only one game that's currently uploaded there. That's the beta for Rivers and Lakes, and it's available as a pay what you want. So you can download the rules, character sheet, monster manual-ish sort of thing, and there's cheat sheets as well. This is a game that has lots of peripheral support, and it helps you like jump right into play and like learn as you're going.
Yeah. I know you designed I think the layout and all the cheat sheets itself too. Did you have any inspiration for that kind of design? I noticed it was very information flow cognizant.
Yeah, definitely a lot of like playing board games, thinking about how much better of a job they do with onboarding players than RPGs often do. That they'll come with like literally a cheat sheet for every player oftentimes. Uh, there's a lot of just like looking at Mothership and being amazed at its character sheet with the flow chart of character creation embedded right into it.
That's what I thought when I
Was
saw a cheat sheet at first.
Yeah, that was a big part of like what I was thinking about. I don't think I did as elegant of a job, but it's a much more complicated game than Mothership, so I forgive myself.
Uh, Speaking of Night at the Opera, you just had the blog just had its 6 year anniversary, right?
Yes, which is, as we all know, an incredibly important milestone in the lifetime of any blog. You'll hear back from me in a what 11th year, maybe 15th.
So you started with your brother originally, right? And they're listed as a contributor on the site too. And it's like you still consider it a joint
Yeah.
uh, blog site.
Yes, not in the way that we originally envisioned. We really thought it was going to be like we would take turns writing blog posts. We were picturing something kind of like the Vlog Brothers on YouTube, and in that 6 year span, he's written 4 blog posts, and I've written more than 200. Um, but he's still like my main creative collaborator in basically everything I do. We're talking about games all of the time. And after all, like Rivers and Lakes is his. He came up with almost all the game design. So I can yap on the internet about game design all I want, but he can actually put his money where his mouth is. So yeah, I still consider it a joint venture. He also came up with the name, which is probably the best part.
This is a pretty sweet name. I like the name that you use during the October months as well, or the spooky months, because I think you get started in September, don't you?
Yeah, September 1st, the first day of Halloween. That's right.
That's right. And what's the name that you put on the blog then?
I just try to, decorate a little bit. I think it says Fright at the Opera when you visit during that portion of the year.
That's right. So you have a 6-year anniversary retrospective, which you reference your 2-year retrospective, and you said that that a lot of the advice that you gave in the 2-year is outdated. Do you have any updated advice for new bloggers out
Sure.
there or old bloggers?
Yeah. I'll reaffirm some of the things I stand by, and just restate them here. The things that were most useful for me when I was trying to decide if I should start this blog is when my brother pitched the idea to me. I was immediately reluctant. I was like, why would I'm not going to write a blog? But I just felt like, it's totally natural that a lot of people they want to participate in their hobby in some kind of greater extent beyond whatever, I don't know, in our case, playing D&D would be. You only get to have your gaming session maybe once a week or two, and you're like, oh, I just want to like be able to do more RPG related stuff outside of playing. There are a lot of options to do that. Blogging is one of them. You don't have to be a blogger if that's the kind of thing you're looking for. Like Brad Kerr doesn't blog. That guy doesn't even read blogs, but he's one of the greatest movers and thinkers in our world. I I was like, all right, if I am gonna try blogging first, I need to check if I'm even fit for it. I sat down to just brainstorm ideas for blog posts to see if I even had enough, I don't know, ideas going on in my head that I could fuel a blog for any, like lengthy amount of time. And I came up with about 30 ideas. And I was like, okay, that feels like a good amount. And in the last 6 years, I've written, I don't know, maybe two-thirds of all the ideas that were on that original list. As it turns out, as you write a blog, you come up with more ideas the more you're writing for other blog posts, and so it kind of fuels itself. And I've met people who really only actually had two or three ideas in them when they started, and then they kind of fizzled out. So that was an important filter to go through. Then I just tried actually writing some blog posts, as practice, not to put out into the world, but just to see, am I good at like writing an actual amount of text that is like nutritional for a reader and like a worthy way to spend their time? Because not everyone can do that either. Some people need to just get in front of a camera and just start yapping away. But no, I was okay at writing. And then the very smartest thing I did was I didn't advertise my blog anywhere until I already had 7 posts uploaded because I wanted there to be like a little buffet for new readers to like pick and choose from when they came to my site for the first time,
Sure.
which is something I've never seen another blog do. So often they say, here's my announcement post. I'm a new blog. This is all I have here yet. So just check back in
Yeah.
whenever I have my actual first post.
I love the posts that say, "Sorry, there hasn't been a lot of posts lately," especially when that's my first one that I read of a website. But
I love, yeah, because I see that. I mean, even on my own blog, I think I have a few posts in my first few months that say that are like, oh, there was one I was like, I'm going to be away for the next month, so hang on tight. Like there was anybody waiting on me. Anybody was going to be like, where's Night at the Opera? It's been 2 weeks since his last post. I'm waiting here.
you might have those folks
Oh,
now. You post fairly often, and I see the comment section of your blog always has at least one or two.
yeah. Um, So the bad advice that I gave in that originally, I can't believe at 2 years in, I was actually trying to post at least 3 times a month. That's bananas to me. Nowadays, I frequently will go months at a time without posting, and I think that is a-okay. That is a fine way to blog. You do not have to put yourself under some kind of ridiculous pressure to post more often. It's not good for you. Just post when you have something to post. Trust me. You'll be a much happier blogger if you do that.
Right on. That sounds like a good enough uh, way to close out the blog talk. I have one more question for you. Do you have a favorite puzzle?
Favorite puzzle, like in the
Yeah.
world? I'm
Not
not a huge
exactly.
fan of
Like
Rubik's
that you've
cubes, I
seen in
guess.
like TTRPGs. I have one
Right.
off the top of my head. And I can give you some time to think about it too. I know I'm catching you off the blue here.
No, no,
Let,
you go first.
yeah.
That might
Let-
trigger something in me. I gotta think.
It's the sample dungeon from the Holmes basic set. Uh, it's a good dungeon. I've run it a couple of times, and there is a statue in one of the rooms, um, and it's pointed at one of the doors. That door is unlocked. The other doors are locked. So you can rotate the statue, and it will unlock the door that it is looking at. Uh, and it's so simple. It's just pointing, at the door.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, it's uh, it's simple to understand. It's conveying the information to the players who are asking about the area. It's a clear indicator, and that particular room too is kind of like a hub in itself. So you can get to those doors from other sides, and they're locked and not know what's going on. But then, as soon as you get into that room, you say, "Okay, we can kind of control this area and the traffic flow
yeah.
from this spot." Now that we have this extra information, and it's always stuck in my head as like if I need a random puzzle for like a random dungeon that I'm running,
Yeah,
I will throw in this statue room.
that is like it's like dead simple, and yet it's the kind of thing that your players it really might take them a moment to even wrap their heads around that, and then they're gonna be like, oh, how convenient.
I took it from
Um,
'74, maybe. I don't remember when the Holmes basic set came out. Around there,
I'm
'76. No,
running I'm through my head like every adventure I've played, and I'm like, I love White Plume Mountain. I don't think the puzzles in it are very good. That's not what I like about it, which is pretty funny. Um, I would say something that's coming to mind. I don't know if this counts as a puzzle. I guess that kind of gets into like there's a certain philosophical question we could get through here today about like what counts as a puzzle.
yeah, I looked
But
at Webster's.
oh yeah, you wanna quote the scripture here? Well, let me okay, I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna run it by you to see what you think. So this is an adventure by Ben Milton, the questing beast, and it's called The Alchemist Repose. It's one of
Mhm.
my favorite adventures, and I think it's some of his finest work. And the dungeon is populated by robots that can be sort of reprogrammed. And I was just so impressed at how elegantly he had designed this like dead simple programming for his robots that the players could play with as like this interactive thing. It's not exactly a puzzle in that there's not like one solution. Like there's a problem and then there's a solution. And you're like, oh, we have the aha moment to make it happen. But it definitely requires a lot of like creative thinking and experimentation. And once you get it doing what you want it to be doing, you're thinking like, aha, we figured this out.
Definitely.
So
Given,
the way, oh, sorry.
I was just gonna say, giving the players a bunch of tools
Yeah.
to mess around with and come up with their own solutions.
And I guess that it's kind of like, in a sense, there's the meta puzzle of like this is a continuous element across the whole dungeon that you're contending with in reoccurring fashion. So once you solve that, it's now like you've solved a puzzle wide or a dungeon wide puzzle. And I'm a huge fan of those sorts of like macro level elements that kind of like shape the entire dungeon crawl experience beyond just the individual challenges of one room after another.
Right on. I dig it too. Obviously, following the theme and having the puzzles tie into each other, I think is clutch for a great puzzle dungeon and puzzle dungeon experience. Dwiz, before we get into the puzzle dungeon feedback portion uh, of the podcast video thingamajigger, where can people find you on the internet? Where can we get your stuff? I know you said your blog at Night of the Opera.
Yeah, that's about it. There's my blog, Night at the Opera, and then there's an itch page where you can find rivers and lakes. And I am available on quite a lot of old school-ish Discord servers if you want to get in touch with me personally. I'm usually pretty open to that sort of thing. Um, and I also once co-wrote a book for Kobold Press that they have not finished publishing because the sales weren't doing well enough for each installment. So you should look into that, see if it tickles your fancy, and then that might actually inspire them to finish publishing it.
I know you've told me about the lost chapter from this book, and you teased it so much, like that you had a whole setting there. Can
Mhm.
can you are you allowed to tell us what it was about?
I think so. Yeah, so to clarify, Kobold Press, well known, they were a third-party D&D company. Now they have their own game called Tales of the Valiant. And I teamed up with my friend, Mr. W.F. Smith of Prismatic Wasteland fame, and we wrote a book called Book of Hexcrawl, which was a supplement about like creating and running a fantasy campaign that would be based on like open world wilderness exploration. Classic stuff. And this was a rare instance of sort of that like mainstream 5e-ish sphere reaching out to the OSR and saying, "Tell us your secrets." So they sold it in installments, like one chapter at a time. You can also buy them bundled together, but the very final chapter we wrote hasn't been published because they just weren't getting enough sales from the other later chapters. But I thought it was the best part of the whole book because that's where we actually offered an entire playable setting, just right there in the final chapter of our book that I think has got some really cool stuff in it.
I know. Release the setting. I don't know. We need a clever
Were you looking
hashtag.
for something there like a release the Snyder Cut style thing?
That's what I was trying to go for, but I couldn't think of anything in the moment because I wanted to combine Dwiz and Prismatic Wasteland into the same thing.
On the fly. That was
Yeah,
ambitious of you.
Prismatic Dwizland. Yeah. Well, I
Dwizmatic.
hope to
Are you
see
kidding
that.
me? It was right there.
What was it? Dwizmatic.
Dwizmatic. Are
The
you?
Dwizmatic Wasteland. All right, there we go. That's the hashtag. I would
This
really
is why
like
they pay me
to
the
see
big
the
bucks.
setting. Uh, I know you. I'd like to see it, and that's all I could say about it. Yes. um. All right. So the Puzzle Dungeon Jam is going on. It's been going on uh, since sometime in November. Time is a flat circle. I'm having trouble here. Uh, what we do in the Puzzle Dungeon Jam is you can still enter. There's a little less than a month left in here. Make your own puzzle dungeon. You get help doing it. I've recorded some feedback already to some of the entries, and this is it's not meant to be like a review of these adventures. It's meant to be something of like a developmental edit pass, something that you might get from an editor that you hired to look at your work or a trusted friend. And you're totally free to ignore the feedback. But if you want, you can resubmit. You can resubmit as much as you like. And the goal is not to bash any of the entries. The goal is to help get the best puzzle dungeon possible out there. And Dwiz has agreed to help me with the adventure that we have here today, which I'm
That's
going to
right.
show you
We're
right
taking
here.
a
Yeah.
good cop, bad cop approach. So
Are we?
direct son will say all the nice things, and then he knew that I was a very prolific hater, so he was like, "I got to bring in a ringer here."
I
I'm
didn't know
kidding.
that.
I have plenty of positive feedback as well.
Okay, good. We have The Tomb of Eight Gates. This is by No Seatbelts. And it says artwork by Perplexing Ruins. The first thing that I noticed from here when I saw it was the artwork. It's extremely striking. I love the layout too. I think No Seatbelts did it as well. It says it's designed by them, and the stats are for Karen 2E, but it says you can use your favorite system going in. I'm just gonna go over my my first overall impressions. Dwiz, I know you can't see it. I have a PDF pulled up over here. I'm on the first page, and I have my comment for my overall impressions and feedback, and then I'll ask you for yours, and then we can dive into the individual things. So I think the theme needs more pushing. There wasn't a super clear theme to me, and I wanted to see that. I wanted to see it sing. We need puzzles that tie into a theme. I think reading the background, I thought it could go like one of two ways or both. I know teleportation for some of the gates in this area was mentioned, and I think something about time was mentioned too. So I thought maybe there's like a time travel element to it. Maybe you can revisit some of these spaces, uh, and you'd see something else over there depending on what particular time or space you were going to. I think teleportation is a good choice. I think time travel can be pretty hard, and teleportation you're just basically dealing with it. It can happen or it can't. Um, I had a few ideas of some ways that you might be able to integrate teleportation, like at its very basic, you have like a torrent of water and it's blocking an area, coming from a portal, right? This water is coming from a portal, and you have to find the portal elsewhere and close the flow to pass, right? You're clearly seeing something is blocking. It's related to the portals. You go check it out. Um, Something that is done a lot in video games, which you can do here, which is very tantalizing, is locations that can be seen but not clearly known how to reach. So
Right.
putting in some more verticality there, like you can see that there's an area over there clearly. Maybe there's a portal there, and it kind of gets you thinking like maybe there's a way we can get over there and do the thing that we need to do. You could also have portals whose destination must be identified for fear of winding up in a trap. Like, do we want to go in here right away? We already know that the other one got us in a situation that we weren't ready for. How do we use what we know about the dungeon already to kind of test that out? Like, do we throw something else in there? Um, how can we figure out where this goes before we decide that we want to go there? And then you could have something maybe like consumable portal devices, give them a little bit extra control, some more toys to play with, kind of like the portal gun. So that was just kind of my main thoughts over there, and then I have some individual stuff. Um, what do you got, Dwiz?
Yeah, so I'll say some good stuff first. I like the theme. I like the backstory. I love the villain, and of course, as you mentioned, the visuals from our artist are really, really cool. Um, they're also making Dungeon Scrawl look pretty good, actually. I know that's a small thing. The gate icons kind of remind me of the dungeon entrances in the original Legend of Zelda for the NES. Um, I really appreciate like a small, tight 10-room dungeon. Um, I understand that's also uh, as a creative constraint, and it puts a lot of pressure on you. But that can also produce some really, really strong design. I will say I am not very dogmatic about dungeon design, not like a lot of other folks are in our hobby. I don't think all dungeons need to be Jaquazed. I don't think all dungeons need random encounters, etc. They need something to give them some sauce, and I do think I agree. Like this dungeon was sort of lacking in a firm theme, and I thought it was surprisingly linear. Um, Again, linearity doesn't have to be bad, but what struck me was that this whole idea about portals, if you were making portals themselves the sort of focal point of your puzzles, that sounds to me like it is inviting navigational challenges, right? The kinds of things where you don't know where a portal's going to take you, but each time you go through a portal, you're slowly figuring out more and more the network of like where they all lead to and how you're going to navigate the space. And that's a I guess type of puzzle I really enjoy. Just figuring out how do we even get from point A to point B in this dungeon. And yet here we are with a dungeon that is almost entirely linear to the point where the room descriptions themselves will literally say to you, the game master, the players will enter through this door and exit through that door because there's not really any other possibility for them. I I wouldn't say that necessarily the space time stuff has to be the theme. You have great ideas there. If I were reworking it, I think I would lean into that. But I just trying to meet them where they are and look at what they've already made. It almost seems like the portals are. sort of just a contrivance to get you from one room to the next without needing them all to link up in a totally sensible fashion. Most of the puzzles have a lot more to do with things like runes and playing around with that and like rune magic. And that's something I could totally see them iterating on a lot more with more examples of that.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't know about time travel. That would be that's always like a huge can of worms. And for a 10-room dungeon, I don't know if this is the time or the place to try going in all on that. But maybe if you're ambitious, that could be really cool.
Indeed. You mentioned I don't know if you actually mentioned it, but something that I did notice with the writing style on this, it was not like anything that I had seen before. It's like half written as like a choose your own adventure kind of style. It says, for example, like you enter through the door to the south and immediately see the first gate crumbling to dust.
I I've seen that a lot. I especially see it in kind of like modern trad, like Wizards of the Coast and Paizo style adventures, and
Oh,
I can't stand it.
wow.
To me, it's a hallmark of that kind of like really like trad sort of railroady style adventure writing because I mean, it's saying to you, you enter through the south or you will enter from the west. And these are making assumptions about things. In this case, I guess there's not much you can do to break those assumptions unless you just so happen to cast a spell you brought into the dungeon with you that lets you
Sure.
teleport on your own. But also, there's a lot of you will so and so. And I don't love when an adventure is using the future tense like that very much. For one thing, it doesn't sound as good, it doesn't sound as natural. Secondly, it takes up more space on the page. Trust me, if you're like fighting for page space, especially in something this small, you are going to appreciate getting rid of all of those you will do so and so's.
Yeah.
Um, it also just doesn't make as much sense as something you might read out loud to your players if you're that kind of game master, the sort who just takes what it says in the dungeon room description and
That's true.
says it out loud at the table.
Yeah.
But you will appear directly behind two skeletal warriors. You don't have to be saying something like that.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a mix. I was actually going to say that I didn't hate it. It's it's different than the kind of like instruction manual, like stereo instructions kind of thing that you usually
Mhm.
get with the bullets. Just kind of plainly describing the facts. I think that the descriptions are short enough where it's kind of neat the language. Um, I agree that you shouldn't specify an experience which may not be the experience for someone who is your player. Um, but as written, it's very linear, so it's very likely that they will experience entering the room this way and seeing the things that way. But a classic example is, this party might not have pass wall, but they might not press the button and raise up the stone door. So you probably shouldn't describe it that way. You just describe what's in the room, right?
Well, it was kind of wild to me. There are parts of it that don't even read like a description for the game master of how the dungeon works, but
Yeah,
rather as instructions for players on how to complete the dungeon.
yeah,
Like if you read it through that lens, I mean, there's something kind of interesting potentially about the players getting access to like an in-universe artifact that just straight up says, then take this key and bring it back over to
yeah.
this door.
I
But
thought immediately of Vermis actually too, where it's kind of
yeah.
like more vibey and it has like some maps and stuff, but you're just kind of meant to like read it and like enjoy the story and imagine if it was a game, I would be playing it this way. Um, I was trying to think about how this might be played solo, but I don't think it could because you would know all the answers to the puzzles.
That is kind of tricky. I'm not sure if somebody out there can come up with the solo puzzle dungeon experience.
I can't do it. I can't do it. Uh, okay, so on the first page with the map, um,
Yeah.
one of the things that I think should be changed is the orientation. Was very confusing. There's a lot of reference to north, south, east, west, but there's no cardinal direction like
Yep.
Primrose compass on the map could really benefit from that. And then,
Especially because later on, when you actually get to the individual rooms, they re-embed the images of them on the page, which is smart and good. But those will often be rotated in a
rotated.
different orientation from this master map.
Yes, very confusing. One thing I put there was alphanumeric codes might be useful because there's a lot of room 1, gate 4, room
Yes.
7. I think it would be easy to get lost. So if the rooms were like
I
R1, R2, something like that.
I would also say of all the labeling done, and it's pretty extensive. There's a huge key in the corner of this map for what's a really small dungeon. Something really useful, I think, that is somehow missing is just a key that tells you which gates link to which other gates.
Yeah, that would be helpful. Um,
Again, I can recognize they're fighting for space here on this one though, so I'm going to be pretty forgiving about that kind of stuff.
yeah. I did appreciate that they fit this in, four A5 pages and a cover. That was nice. It's a cool format. Um, and I think maybe actual room names, if they were short, to put on there to break up room
Yeah.
1, room 5, just to give me a little refresher if I was running it. Like, oh, I remember this room, not just by looking at it. Like, yeah, that's the maze and this, but just a little extra something. Let's see. Oh, there are descriptions of the doors and entrances and exits, but we have the map and we have a mini map, so we don't need those. You can cut those. What did I say? Don't need the description. Have the mini map. I said that. I was confused on the puzzle in room 4. I'm not sure how
Getting
that
ahead of
works.
yourself. I got notes for every room
Okay,
one at a
great.
time.
So I'm just looking at the first spread. What you got?
Yeah. Okay. I said a little bit about room one, just like how they write their room descriptions.
Mm-hmm.
There's a sort of like eternal debate that has been going on forever about like paragraph style versus bullet point style. And they're both legitimate schools of thought. I do kind of really like the very terse and technical bullet points that just tell you the elements that are found here. Um, but yeah, it's fine if you're like writing it out in full sentences describing what's here. Just as long as it's not like declaring what actions the players are taking, I think would be a nice way to revise this. Um, room 2, portals reactivating by re-entering the room. It reminds me a lot of retro video games where like you would leave the room and then you go back into that area and it has to reload a fresh instance because you're now revisiting it. I think that's maybe a little unintuitive, and it's weird that that seems like a rule that's being established in the very first portal you go through, but then is not the rule for any of the other ones going forward. You know
Yeah,
what I
just
mean?
this one.
Um, and then there's just like tiny little things like it says here, the door to the west is locked. I would have then right there said the key to this door is found in room 4, you know, because I was left wondering like, there's just a locked door. Is there anything more to that? And from the game master's point of view, I think it would be helpful to like have reference information that points to wherever you're gonna be, thinking I need an answer for something.
Yep.
Um, room 3, I just wrote this puzzle's pretty good. But you said you had room 4 notes, so you fire that one off.
All right, cool. Yeah, I mean, the only note I really have here is that I was confused on the puzzle. Did you understand what was needed to be done?
No,
Okay.
I thought it was really unclear. It said facing outward versus facing inward, but I was like, relative to what? Especially because that's straight. It frames it like it's a binary, outward versus inward. But I see these arrows on this map are indicating at least 4 different directions that these statues I think are meant to be facing, and I think that's
Yeah.
what that indicates.
Rotating the statues to
Um,
different directions. And the previous puzzle was
right,
walking in through one door and walking out from another, but you needed to walk through the right order based on the runes on the floor. And yeah, I see what
right,
you're
and
talking
that's
about, a lot of them relating to runes.
there's
So
at least one other place where I think that iterates on that, which I
yeah,
think that'd be a nice theme to
you
try
think
to
maybe on room
pull
4 too, like runes on the floor to turn the statues for based on the
more.
ones that you'd seen already?
Yeah, something like that. Especially because like I mean, just trying to go off of the text and ignore the image. When it says like facing outward and you want to make them all face inward, I feel like that's a very simple sort of thing. That's once you figure it out for one of them, you're gonna just then say, all right, we do that for all of them. So what's the point in having so many of them? Or if you don't get any sort of like positive confirmation feedback after you've just done one of them, how are the players, how's it going to occur to them that they need to do it with all of them, you know? So having just, I guess, an extra clue there that kind of directs certain actions, even if it is like those runes on the floor, something like that, I think would be helpful and make tickle their brains a little bit more, get them thinking about different ideas.
Right on. Dig
Um,
it.
I think I think there might have been a mistake. It says at the beginning of this one, door 8 leads to room 3. I think this is room 4, and I think that might have just been a mistake, although I could be misunderstanding.
Yeah,
Um,
might be a typo.
I did not understand the trap. It says roll 1d6, 1 to 3 you're safe, 4 to 5 roll reflexes. On a 6, the trap triggers. So I was wondering, wait, okay, so what does the reflex roll for? Does that not represent the trap triggering? And if you fail that roll, what happens if you fail? What does that roll for? I don't know.
I don't think this trap has any function actually, because it's a paralyzation trap. There's no wandering
Hmm.
encounters in this adventure, and
Right.
you're
It's only if the players are trying to maintain a certain limited supply of light, I guess, or some other time-based resource that they may have brought into the dungeon with them. But it only takes like 1d6 minutes before you're no longer paralyzed. So,
it actually says others who avoid the gaze, if they make their save, they can attempt to move you with a strength roll. So
mhm.
that would imply to me that they could just keep trying, and it would maybe take like another turn to like move
Mhm.
you. And maybe this only affects the party if it's like a TPK, in which case everyone is affected.
Yeah,
But I guess you're right.
it really
1d6
does.
minutes.
It's like a puzzle that I think wouldn't be too hard to brute force a solution to. And I think you're going to want to do something to prevent that, even if it is just making a more severe penalty for failure or messing up. So that way they have to just put a little bit more critical thinking into each attempt that they're taking.
Yeah.
Um, Other like kind of just general editing, writing stuff. You may also take the gate back to room 1. For a moment, I was like, wait, which gate are? I assumed gate 3, but does this come right after a sentence where they're talking about gate 2? And maybe that's another thing that could just be helped with like the better labeling that'll happen with
Yeah.
what gates and what rooms there are.
There was a color coded sequence on the map. Say this color corresponds to this one. That's where the gate goes, maybe.
Yeah, I love color coding and I have to stop myself from using it as the solution to every problem because of like accessibility needs.
Yeah.
And it breaks my heart because I love just saying, do you see where the red and the red? Okay, you get red. Cool. And this is yellow. You understand yellow, right? All right, we're good.
I really do love the two tone style of this too, and the color coding would disrupt that. I think the use of color on this to set it off and give it that old feel is fantastic. And the artwork does kind of remind me of Plastibo's work in Vermis also.
Yeah, it
Perplexing
does.
Ruins work. Yeah. Um,
Um,
I have room 5. You got anything else for 4?
no, and I actually don't really have anything for 5, so you take it away.
All right. I think we could probably drop the locked text, lock this door is locked text, because we have the mini map. We could just put a little L or something on the mini map and we're good. It's awesome having mini maps on each of the descriptions. Utilize it to its fullest potential, I think, and save on your text.
Yeah,
Um,
because the text here is pretty cramped. There aren't even like margins above or below any paragraph. It's real tight. And
mhm.
I think you're gonna be thanking yourself if you can like find those like little spaces to save on word count.
Yeah. And the only other thing I have is what we talked about was the compass rotation. So I was a little confused because the orientation is different than the one on the main map.
I did have another thought
Oh
actually.
yeah.
So the linearity in this dungeon is especially surprising to me since it relies a lot on simple locked doors, right? Just a regular dungeon door that has a lock. You're gonna need a key to open it. That's wild to me because like that's one of the most dead simple level 1 dungeon crawling challenges, right? And every party of adventurers has a handful of ways to overcome that. They don't ever need a key. Have you ever met a party of dungeon crawlers that actually uses the key, at least as their first thing? People bash doors down, they teleport past them, they lockpick. And that's not bad, right? Obviously, we like puzzle dungeons. That means that we like puzzles that have multiple solutions, and not needing to use the key to get through is perfectly valid. The issue is that in other dungeons, normally these kinds of locked doors like this that you could totally just bypass, they're usually either leading you into optional secret rooms and things that you didn't need to really complete it, or they're maybe opening up a route that allow you to bypass some other way more dangerous route or something like that. But in this
Yeah.
dungeon that's already so linear, if you were to say in this room, just go right for bashing down that door, now you've just skipped a huge chunk of this already small dungeon. And I think that's going to be rough. And it's either you make that obligatory to do it in this order, or you just make the dungeon a little bit less linear, I think.
I would love to see something like you're describing, like a very hazardous route that you could take. But if you find a way to circumvent that, it would help you. And a way to do that could be, the teleporting around to somewhere where you wouldn't expect, up above or something. You come out in a spot that you saw before, a random balcony, and you're like, oh, hey, I'm in a position to do that thing that I wanted to way back when, and it was stuck in
Yeah,
my head. All right, I got the maze. As soon as I
I
saw
got
the
thoughts.
maze, I was thinking mazes can be frustrating. They're really hard to do in TTRPGs. And this is, a
As,
full on maze.
as you may know, I do have a blog post about exactly that topic. It is, frankly, outrageous. It's oh gosh, I'm trying to remember how long that one is, where I attempted to talk about through the entire problem of designing mazes and labyrinth gameplay for RPGs. It's something around 10,000 words long, so I will spare our listeners all of that right now. But suffice it to say, they're just tricky to run. This maze is relatively simple, but it's still complex enough that if you're running it without visual aid, just theater of the mind, it's gonna be a slog. Put yourself in that actual position of when you would be running this for your players and ask yourself, what are the sentences I'm literally saying to narrate us through this? You come to a crossroads. Do you want to go left or right? Cool. You come to another crossroads. Do you want to go left or right? Again, again, again. The players are going to be bashing their heads against the wall just trying to keep track of this. And yet, if you did provide them a visual, this would be so trivial to solve. And there's no trick to it. There's no like clue to navigate it. You just brute force this, especially considering that it's literally filled with brutes to force your way through. And that's the only challenge element here.
Yeah, the note I have here is abstracted out. Um, who is it?
And
Professor Dungeon Master
clues.
in from Dungeon Craft has a video on how they do the Minotaur's maze from the Caves of Chaos in B2, Keep on the Borderlands. I really like that video. Um, and he just kind of board games it up like they roll dice, and whichever you roll, you wind up in that area. You're like separated from the group, so you get a new interesting
Right.
mechanic where you're on your own and you have to solve this challenge, and you have to get out. And when two players roll the same dice, they wind up with each other, and then they can move around together as a party. And then eventually everyone winds up back together, which I thought was a neat idea to do it. But I think you could totally utilize a teleportation theme with this. Abstract it out, have
Yeah.
your runes, have the clues, something to latch onto to help you navigate this and use that
Mhm.
as the puzzle.
I would say if if you were open to just replacing a room entirely, if all that stuff we are talking about with more portal based puzzles or glyph, rune based puzzles or something like that was really inspiring you, this would be the first room that I would replace with something totally fresh because it does kind of like not fit in with most of the rest of it. That being said, I mean, I agree. I am always fascinated by somebody who has a novel take on how to do a kind of fun, simple little maze solving challenge in any dungeon. So I'm not discouraging you from trying that out. I will say another thing that caught me here. From where do you enter this room? And where do you exit? It looks like there's only one egress on this little mini map. And it says you're looking for a key to the door above. But at least on the map, there's no door icon, as there has been, I think, pretty consistently throughout the rest of the map.
Hmm. Yeah, I noticed it was rotated from the map. It's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, should be noted.
I like their skeletal brutes, though, and just in general, the skeletal monsters and the different flavors of them, I think, is
Oh yeah.
one of my favorite parts of this dungeon overall.
I just have a short note here that I thought that the description of the next area where you walk in through the door, you find the grand staircase. I thought that should be underneath room 7 because it's the next area that you go to, and it's actually describing what you see in the mini map for room 7. Um,
Right, yeah.
I was confused by the puzzle in room 8. I don't know if you have anything else between there, but um, yeah.
I don't. I actually, well, I'll say I actually like Room 7. I think that's a fun sounding challenge. It's like a puzzle combat in a sense, which is another kind of underrated genre of puzzle where it's this is just a fight. That's all it is, but you can't approach it in a straightforward way. You got to come up with some kind of clever solution. I think that's a pretty good thing to break up a dungeon crawl experience. Room 8. Okay, so if I understand right, I think what it is you need to press down 8 pressure plates. And to do so, you have been given a bunch of boulders. Because after all, you, I don't know if a human being's weight would be enough to weigh these down. Maybe it would be. But you probably don't have 8 human beings to all stand on these pressure plates. Even if you did, you got to get them through the portal. So yeah, let's use those boulders. And then the main problem is that boulders are heavy and they really want to roll down the staircase. Which is funny. Like this is like a physics sort of problem to solve, right? Like how do we move these boulders how we want them to be moved?
It I think it was hard for me to visualize reading this. I think it would be hard for me to describe that to the players, and it would be hard for me to role play that out what I was doing. I think I would have
Right.
to draw something and I would need more visual aids in my case.
I do like I like that they can when they reach the bottom they'll teleport back up to the top. That's a really smart measure for like I guess like keeping the players from getting too frustrated from failure. And also I think it immediately telegraphs to the players this is a puzzle. Like don't think of these as an obstacle or a trap. The fact that they do this whole teleportation thing tells you like these are an ingredient in a puzzle you need to solve here.
Hmm.
Um eight might be too many, right? 8 might be overdoing because again, once the players figure out some kind of method that's going to help them get at least 3 into place, you could just say, "All right, we do that for all of the rest of the boulders."
Very true. It is fun though, imagining them clambering down the stairs. It's true. Wow,
Yeah, I do like this one in theory. So yeah,
I have that same note actually for room 9. I was confused by that puzzle too. It looks like there's runes on the floor.
it does. That was kind of wild. It appears much like the puzzle in room 3, but it seems like they're kind of unrelated. And I almost like brought too many assumptions forward from that puzzle before I realized, wait a second, this doesn't say anything about like a need to step on platforms in any particular order like that puzzle did. Okay, but then why are these platforms numbered? I also took me a while to even see that they were numbered. I probably would have missed that until I read in the room key it was making reference to the numbers. But as far as I can tell, the only thing the players need to do here is simply run across the central platforms straight to gate 5, ignore these side platforms, and unfortunately, kind of just hope for good RNG because this whole room is mostly just roll dice and hope you get lucky. And that is, I think, a pretty rough thing for a puzzle.
Yeah, I was curious why you fall 3 times and then you are dead. Like it just kind of comes out of nowhere. So why after 3 times?
I have thoughts about that, and I have a way I think to help with that because I want us again, let's consider what would actually happen if you were sitting at the table playing this and how that's going to go down. A player falls down and they're thinking, "Oh no, I've perished." No, they teleport back up. Great. Okay. I don't know how that happened. I don't know what's working here, but apparently I was saved and falling off did not kill me. And then it happens a second time and they survive again. If that happens twice in a row, those players are immediately going to take away from that the message that, oh, we can do this as many times as we want to, then, right? And then, nope, the next
And you
time that
die.
happens to them, they'll die. That is like the opposite of teaching your players the lessons they need to know in
Yeah.
order to get through this puzzle. And it's actually it's such a simple fix. Instead of saying, you do it 3 times and then you die, just each time it should just do a little bit of damage. And that's going to convey to the players, okay, every time is a punishment, but we can still do this a few times. We have a few chances, but not an infinite number of chances. Because if we do this too many times, we'll die, right?
I kind of like I like that solution. I as you were saying that a consequence and 3 times and stuff, I was thinking about the numbers and the runes. I would like to see that
Yeah,
integrated here, building on the previous puzzle, building on the knowledge and the teaching, and if you could use that somehow with the chances to live too, that would be interesting. Like, okay, you fall off the first time, now you have a tattoo with the rune that means 1, or you had a 3 and now it's down to 2. And I feel like that's just ominous enough to say, oh, I don't want to see what happens when it gets down to 0.
yeah, yeah. And yeah, so I guess if I were to rework this one in general, something with those runes ideas, something that's kind of iterating on that rooms 3 that we read earlier, the one that we both were like, this is solid, this has potential, this is like the foundation of like probably other puzzles you can build
The
out from
Scooby
this
Doo
one.
hallway, classic.
Exactly. And then maybe there's like a little less reliance on just getting good luck with your dice rolls that you don't really have much control over. Um, and gosh, imagine if the players came into this room with like a spell of flight. They have no idea what they're gonna be missing out on here, how easy this will be for them.
Uh, yeah, and then I have room 10, um, and I have it would be nice to use some of the knowledge and the learnings that you get from the mechanics and the other puzzles to defeat this boss. So we have these 4 gates which are surrounding them, and it states that they're caught off guard. If you go into one, you come out another random one. It would be neat if you
Yeah,
could figure out what the runes meant and change where they teleport to. Use
right,
knowledge from elsewhere in the dungeon and maybe get the higher ground, kind of. Maybe there's a portal up top and you're like, oh, I know what to do. I'll change this to get to over there. I can get above him, I can get behind him, and use those
right.
strategies, and reward that mastery of the mechanics that you've learned in the dungeon. As of right now,
I agree.
it's kind of random.
I will say, even if it is kind of random, it's still this is still like is gonna make for a pretty exciting boss fight, I think. Even if it's like there's more potential to unearth here, just like having the portals in this room and the sort of like rapid repositioning as he like shoves you through one of them and you pop out another one, I think is gonna it adds a lot to just making this a more exciting and dynamic fight. But if yeah, there's a more again of a puzzle solving element to it, that'd be great. I want to say I really like Brother Null. I think they're cool, and I really like the fantasy imagery here.
I love the
Um,
imagery. I I wasn't super convinced by their motivation. They wanted to they brought
yes,
him in because they wanted someone to witness their greatness. I wanted some more to
yes.
latch on to. I couldn't really get in that headspace.
I have a couple of notes here. So one of them I just wrote and is a little unrelated to that, but it says one of the monks seen depicted on your journey through the tomb. And I was like, did that happen? Where? Has there been artwork like in the dungeon at some point? Is there like been hieroglyphics on the wall or something like that? Or that was a little like out of left field. And again, it's the kind of thing that made me think, ooh, that could be really interesting if that had been incorporated more thoroughly throughout the dungeon as a potential like recurring element that could like tie into puzzles. Um, the Q&A format for Brother Null when you first meet him is pretty solid. I like that. But yeah, it's that what are you doing question that I was like, hold up, I'm gonna need you to elaborate. Is he saying, because I players ask, what are you doing? And he says, well, the gates will consume each other's energies until there's nothing. Is he implying that he's causing that to happen? Why? What would the result of that be? What motivates him? How is he causing such a thing? For example, if we wanted to stop him. I mean, I guess you could stop him by just killing him, which I think the adventure assumes you'll do.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just the whole big for having a whole Q&A. The one question I would have the most curiosity about is the one that I is like the least fleshed out.
Agree.
But I think honestly, like this is not a terrible adventure. This is a single session of fun play. I think my players would enjoy this if they ran through, this like tight little 10 rooms. I think that boss fight would be really thrilling and fun. And it is a lot of just like tweaking here and there throughout of the miscellaneous puzzle elements. A lot of the time is going to do it's gonna do what it takes to just push this like right over the line to
Yeah, I
going from
agree.
like this is like an okay evening of fun to being like now that was a memorable sort of like puzzle solving experience.
It's got a lot of the great trappings here. I mean, I think the format is easy. I think you could print this out and run it pretty easy. It's short enough and simple enough. I just would like to see a lot more of those teaching and learnings and buildings on the previous puzzles,
Yeah.
and more tying into the theme, the puzzles. Yeah.
I agree.
Anything else you want to say, or is that that what your closing?
I mean, that's all the notes I had on
Right
this,
on.
and I'm just thank you for having me. I like I said, I share maybe not to the same extent, but I share your appreciation of puzzle dungeon design. I just love that you're doing this jam because I said already I want more adventures and not as many systems, and love dungeons. Like just hand me those like small dungeons that you can just like drop into your world and I'm tired of dungeons that are kind of just hack and slash. Like this is the kind of thing that I think kind of sticks with players. So we're about to get a whole lot more of them.
I think it's probably my favorite dungeon. That doesn't mean that I don't like other adventures. There's a place for all different games. I like some story games. I loved our Slug Blaster campaign. But that kick that I get from learning those puzzles and solving those and DMing those kind of games where the puzzles are Legend of Zelda esque, fleshed out dungeons that build on each other and really stretch your brain. Um, I really like them.
And I want to remark, I think it hopefully can go a long way towards, I don't know the right word here, is destigmatizing puzzles? Because there's this bizarre reputation that puzzles have in RPGs where people will tell you when you're new, like, oh, you got to dumb it down, dumb it down. Your players are idiots. They can't figure out anything. They're babies. They're gullible. Um, and you gotta have them have like really open-ended solutions. You can't. Some people will tell you don't even have any solution in mind because the second you've already come up with a solution, oh no, like you're just asking for your players to be bashing their heads against the wall in frustration. And I think that we're really selling ourselves short here for like what it takes. This is a skill. This is something you can learn to do. It's a muscle that you can exercise. Creating puzzles that your players are capable of figuring out and mastering in the course of a single evening without feeling like they're babies, without having to talk down to them. And yeah, it's awesome when it's puzzle has like multiple viable solutions, but you don't have to be afraid of saying like, yeah, there's a right way to do this. And I think my players can learn how because this dungeon's going to teach them. And that's just so exciting to actually have that experience. You can do it.
Right on, man. I dig it. I couldn't have said it better myself. If you want to join the jam, it looks like there's a little more than 24 days as of recording. Make your own puzzle dungeon. I'm doing feedback in the order that it comes on. You won't always get an amazing, beautiful, charming guest like Dwiz, but maybe sometimes again in the future, maybe you just get me. Um, Either way, you can go to itch for it, but also if you go to puzzledungeon.com/jam, that'll get you there. Look at that. Beautiful. It's magic. And one last thing I wanna plug. I have my own puzzle dungeon adventure. The newest one's coming out, A Familiar Tower. It's launching for Z month in February. There's a button here to sign up on BackerKit. I like seeing the numbers go up. It makes me happy. Skullboy is on it for the art. Sam Sorensen's on it for editing. All the text is done. All the editing is done. He's working on layout now too, which is amazing. Sam's finishing up the artwork. I'm super excited about it. And I want it to succeed so much.
I do too, because I played it and it was really cool, and I am envious because other people got to play with the physical prop of the tower itself.
Oh man, it's really great when it comes together. In the module, I have instructions on how you can make your own tower out of a cylindrical oatmeal box, if you would like. You could also use a full paper towel roll or whatever. This one over here, my son helped me decorate and paint. It's got like a little tinfoil roof, and we painted it and spackled it and stuff. And it's cool because players assume like, oh, okay, we have this area that we're visiting, right? We have minis we're going through, and then it slowly changes into something else, and like the smile on their face when they realize what they get to do now in this puzzle dungeon with this prop is just it's awesome. It's the reason why I keep on running this in Meat Space, even though it's fun digitally also. That's it. You got anything else that I forgot about? Anything you want me to talk to you about or ask you that I haven't already?
Yeah, we were probably supposed to figure out whether or not system matters, I think. We can do that next time.
I think definitively system matters, right?
Well, now you're forcing me to have to pick the other proposition, which I don't want to do, but I'll do it if I have to.
I'll ask Yohai. I'll see what he thinks.
I'm sure he'll appreciate that.
Thanks again for your time. I hope that all your hopes and dreams and wishes come true. And you,
wow,
dear listener / watcher / anything also too. All right.
Thank you for having me.
Have a good night or day or whatever. Bye-bye.